and also the Southeast Regional Hub, and then which is within the National Centers for Academic Excellence in Cybersecurity. So welcome to you both. We had a great conversation yesterday. We're thinking about all kinds of ideas. I'm really honored to be able to interview today for you two real true pioneers. I think of you two as doing so many inventive and creative things, not only to increase the number of people in our profession, but diverse talent in our industry. And so I'm so excited to hear a little bit more about ThriveDX and some of the programs that you have there targeted at those particular goals, but also to you. So would you tell us a little bit, let's start with Professor El-Sheikh. Could you tell us a little bit about the National Cybersecurity Workforce Development Program and what is unique about that, and what do you want people in the audience to know about it?
Okay? Good morning, and first of all, it's an honor to be here with both of you and with all of you, and just thank you so much to Val and CFF for everything that they do to kind of continue to take action and enhance what we're doing in cybersecurity and collaborate, as you mentioned earlier, Dan. So thank you both Catherine and Dan for this opportunity. So thank you for that question. So the National Cybersecurity Workforce Development Program was launched in order to address the cyber workforce challenge that we hear so much about. As you just heard earlier, the number of job openings is increasing, not decreasing. So we're going in the wrong direction, both as a country and globally. I mean, here in the US, we went from 500,000 open US jobs to 770,000 open jobs in 6 months, right? And so the idea behind the program is to really kind of create a platform that serves as a one-stop shop for anyone wanting to launch or advance a cybersecurity career, and serve as that kind of platform for students, for employers, for higher education institutions wanting to provide training. As we know, there's so many people who, for example, may want to change careers. They don't necessarily need to go back to get a 4-year or 2-year degree. Or so many people are in this community, for example, a huge military town, just so impressed with everything that San Antonio has here going on, who may be transitioning from the military or a veteran or transitioning for first responders. So the program provides free training for eligible participants, including transitioning military, first responders, veterans. And what it does is kind of serve as that kind of guide throughout the program where they could identify through cognitive aptitude test what they're good at. If, like, let's say I'm leaving the military and I don't know where to start, but I've heard cyber is cool, I could take a cognitive test and identify what I'm good at. I can identify which nice work roles would be a good fit for me. I can go to the cyberskillstowork.org website and find out which institutions across the country are offering training. We're fortunate that we have 10 CAE colleges and universities part of this program already, including right here UTSA and San Antonio College, and it's led by the University of West Florida where I'm at. And then they could sign up for the training, they could receive a scholarship for full free tuition if they're eligible, and then last but not least, they can connect with employers and jobs, because what really makes this functional and successful, the national program, is the focus on employability, right? If we can train people so that they're employable, then employers will want to hire them, and that's kind of what creates that success model. So we've developed a national employers network where then employers can actually post their jobs, connect with learners, and start that transition to build their career.
That is so awesome, and that's really kind of the commonality, and it's worth focusing on a little bit, is this the necessity of working with employers, because the ultimate goal is to get people into these jobs, hopefully entry-level jobs, true entry-level jobs. And so it's exciting to hear. I knew that you were doing that. Don, can you talk a little bit about how you work with employers, because you're doing some innovative things about bringing them more into the platform than before, rather than waiting to graduate them from the program, you're bringing the employers in for that last mile. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Hello? Yes. So first and foremost, we started in the US by collaborating with universities, with educators like University of Chicago, NYU, San Diego State, across the nation, top tier and community colleges. Then after training the students, we give them all, not just technical and tough skill, but also soft skills, career, and then we place them in jobs. What we did a few months ago, opening up the Global Cyber Talent Hub, is actually we built an ecosystem where employers, educators, government, and students can come together. So on the one side, graduate students, cyber professionals can have their competencies assessed. On the other side, you have employers who put out the competencies that they need. And then the magic happens. We batch them. And sometimes, for example, you need to have a specific last mile training, like for Mandiant, if you want to work in Mandiant. So Mandiant will put their content on the Talent Hub, and then that graduate or that cyber professional can take that course and be ready exactly and be shaped for what the company exactly needs, thereby helping get entry-level cyber analysts completely trained in what the companies actually need.
So I really love that. There has been some talk, and you may want to comment on it, about employers and how they articulate the needs. How are they articulating specific requirements for the job? There's been talk about the need to drop degree requirements. They still need to articulate that. Do you think bringing them in earlier, meaning making them part of the education process, is going to help eliminate that, or at least make them better at understanding and then imparting to students earlier what those needs are and getting them trained?
Yeah, absolutely, Catherine. It's such an important issue because, as we're seeing, like cybersecurity is such a dynamically evolving field. I mean, every threat or breach that occurs, we learn something new. And there are job roles or work roles that are being created that didn't even exist last year or 2 years ago. And they'll be like, look at OT security and ICS and critical infrastructure security. And so it's really important, like you're saying, to create that communication channel with employers, but do it in a way that actually supports employability and advancement and the linkage, like Dan was saying. I think we've kind of tried to do that by at least saying, A, we all need to use a common language. So for our program, we have used the NICE cybersecurity workforce framework so that we can, as educators, employers, and learners, all be using the same terms. And we encourage employers to start by at least identifying which NICE work roles their jobs relate to, including if there isn't a defined work role, let's help them create it, right? I mean, we're creating the future as we're going. And so, being able to do that and then being able to make sure that, like, through education and training, we're not only developing competencies, like focus on the competencies needed for the jobs, and that's defined in the NICE framework, but that we're also documenting and, like you said, assessing those competencies, right? Because we need to be able to say, not only are these people prepared to go into these work roles, but look, here's the proof that they are ready, right? So being able to assess it and provide some kind of, we provide digital credentials or badges so that then they can, when they go talk to employers, they say, I am now prepared to be a cyber defense analyst, and here's my credentials to indicate that I have those knowledge, skills, and competencies. So it's very important to create that communication.
Thank you for shouting out to NIST NICE. We always have to. They've been mentioned a couple times, but it's worth saying they've done a lot to develop a common vernacular around how we talk about cybersecurity requirements and job listings. One of the things I wanted to point out is I really feel it should be said that these programs are kind of changing the economics of how this work. Employers spend a lot of money to recruit, as Don was saying, and kind of recycle people, kind of recruit people from other companies that already have experience. And that doesn't really get us anywhere. It doesn't make a net difference in the amount of positions that we have to fill. So by changing the economics and bringing employers in earlier, but also making it a two-way street and letting those employers leverage learning programs for people in jobs, right? Giving them tools like ThriveDX that can then let them upskill people. They can then move to other positions and create true entry-level openings. Can you talk about how are you, you are, but talk about how you're changing those economics.
Sure. So first and foremost, what we do in the beginning is bring quality training to people, to different learners, and train them, whether, and can be a nurse, it can be a lawyer, it can be an Uber driver, anybody and everybody that just needs and has motivation to learn. We train them in necessary skills to get that entry-level job. And today, what we see is we're actually opening up internal academies with, on one side, the employer, on one side, the university, an internal academy that fits the needs exactly what that employer needs. And then the students are able to have their training funded by that employer. And the employer can get a sustainable, predictable cybersecurity talent pipeline of entry-level analysts. But then they also want to give professional development to their existing professionals. By bringing in the beginning level cyber analyst, the existing professionals have time to learn. And so the company is now investing in their future, in their professional development, which helps in retaining those same exact analysts, because then they have career path and they see a future, not just where they are. And so we have end-to-end cybersecurity training platform that fits the needs of the whole company, of every single type of employee, from awareness and phishing to all the way to IT and cyber professionals that can get them advanced in the competencies they need for their next role in cybersecurity.
What's great about that is that then from here, I think you can, not easily, but it's easier to tailor some of the curriculum to the sectors that will need more specific training, like Dr. El-Sheikh, you were saying, in OT. You've done some work on automotive, very specifically. We're going to need more of that. I mean, I've commonly heard there's a lack of resources and training and content for OT. Along those lines, I wanted to mention, Professor El-Sheikh, you are a teacher. You're teaching AI/ML courses. ThriveDX is introducing some very innovative courses around safe coding. These are important emerging areas. And so talk a little bit about how innovation like this is going to make it easier for us to adapt training more quickly to the needs of the workforce in these new areas.
Catherine, I think you hit kind of the important point, which is adapt, right? That like the education and the training needs to adapt, because as we're hearing throughout the last 3 days, cyber and just digital transformation is adapting the way the world works, right? And so I think we need, especially kind of for, the audience that's in education and in training, we really need to kind of shift the paradigm, right? We're no longer in a state where you could kind of think of traditional degree programs, especially in a field like cyber. And so, we constantly advocate for more agile education and training, more just-in-time education and training, more integrated, like you're saying. How does for example, AI or machine learning support cybersecurity? What about the security of AI and machine learning, right? So we've got to kind of, I think the more we can kind of bring it all together, I always use that term, kind of just-in-time learning and agile learning, the better, and do it in a way that actually relates to the real world, right? The more we can bring in, for example, recent breaches, recent use cases, and kind of say, this is kind of the whole approach. Just like as yesterday we were talking about, like the whole of nation or the whole of globe approach. We need that in order to kind of adapt, like you're saying, education and training to suit future needs.
Thank you. Well, you hit it right on the button, as Professor Iman said. We have to innovate all the time. Cybersecurity is changing all the time, and what was relevant yesterday is not relevant today. So we look at it, we have a three-pronged approach. First and foremost, we have an advisory board of over 36 of the top people in the nation, from Google, LinkedIn, IBM, from the top companies, coming and seeing our curriculum, making sure it fits their needs currently, not yesterday. Second of all, we have our faculty are all working in industry. And our internal factory goes out and does cyber services, gap analysis, vulnerabilities testing, everything, in order to see what's happening in the market and bring that into the curriculum on a practical, skill-based level. And the third, we look for the best of the best technologies, and we see sometimes either we collaborate or we buy them. And so we bought lately one of the best secure coding company, and we integrated secure coding into our software engineering, into our cybersecurity programs. And it's not about a theory-based, it's a practical-based approach where they see breaches, they fix the breaches. It's not the engineers see videos and just listen to it. It's actually, they do the work, they do the secure coding during their programs. And this helps us make sure that we stay relevant and up to date on what we teach and what we train.
So I love all that, and especially secure coding is a huge focus, of course. I'm DC based, and there's a lot of talk about software assurance and how we do that, but we have to ask ourselves the fundamental question of, do we have the people who can do it? And so we have to create them. I wanted to shift a little bit. These are amazing programs, and we love hearing about them, but we all know that it takes funding. We talked a little bit about funding, but I want to talk a little more about it. It takes funding and it takes partnerships. We've talked about the CAE program, which is a program that receives support or allows universities and accredited universities to receive certain support from the federal government. Can you talk a little bit about the programs that we rely on to bring our learners up through our processes, and then maybe make a few comments on, suggestions for us to take back to our policymakers, like what is needed, except for more of everything. Can you make some suggestions for what is needed?
We always need more, right? More is always helpful. But it is important, like you're saying, so the National Cyber Workforce Development Program that I mentioned is generously funded by the NSA, National Centers of Academic Excellence Program. We received a 3-year, $9 million grant to fund mostly scholarships for training 1,700 transitioning military veterans and first responders across the country. And those scholarships are still available. So I encourage anybody interested or knows somebody to interested in training to go to cyberskillstowork.org and sign up. But as you mentioned, there's really a need for, what we see the need for is kind of on the larger initiatives to really bring collaborative efforts together. How can we partner, like you said? How can we take successful models and programs and bring them together? There's a lot of work that is being done in silo, and I think it helps to, for example, stakeholders, whether that's federal government, state government, funding agencies, investors, to look at what are these large-scale initiatives like the two that we're describing here that could be kind of leveraged to support the national and the global crisis, right? That's what we need more of, is kind of people kind of going to support those bold, large, sustainable and scalable initiatives.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And we're particularly passionate about the use of technology, which is in a way a little bit ironic because we're trying to create more people, but we have to leverage technology. Don, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I want to add what specifically more, maybe. So today, in very happy that companies are more lenient on the need of a 4-year degree. So they're hiring people coming out of certificate programs or practical skill-based programs. So one of the things that needed more is government to fund certificate university programs and not only a 4-year degree program. The GI Bill mainly funds vets with a 2 or 4-year program and not a certificate program. When the outcome that is looked for is a job, these certificate programs, the outcome is a job. And vets are so loyal and want to add so much to national security. This exact type of programs that the GI Bill, for example, should fund, both giving a job at the end, an outcome for the vets, and helping our national security. Another thing, a third and last one that has been working very much, the governor of New York and a committee of C-level have put forth $10 million for, as I said before, an interest-free outcome-based loan for students of under-resourced environments. This directly helps people from low-income communities be able to get the training needed, the quality training, and the great jobs that are out there. And more of those type of programs that really go directly to fund people from low income, people from under-resourced communities, be able to get this education and get placed in these amazing jobs.
That's a terrific point. The idea that veterans make an ideal group to help us close the gap in our, really, what is our national security mission? They are well trained to understand, has already come up. Colonel Frost mentioned it, and I completely agree with her. The other major issue we should address is the issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our profession. The cybersecurity industry has struggled with that. I would love to just take a minute to talk about how each of your programs is working on that problem and maybe some innovative approaches, or at least how you see the problem and how we could scale.
Well, and first, it's just so important. Diversity is so important for so many reasons, not only to kind of bring more people in, but also to really continue to innovate, right? Because, diversity of thought and diversity of kind of approach comes from diversity of participation, representation. And so it's really important for us to kind of collectively work on that. I think, as you mentioned, Catherine, like for us, we really see, one aspect of this national program where we're bringing in kind of diverse groups such as, transitioning military, such as first responders, such as veterans, where they might not be thinking of a career in cyber, but they have a lot of the prerequisite skills: teamwork, communication, problem solving, serving the country, security clearances. So they've got a lot of the kind of additional skills that are needed. I think, in terms of diversity, one of the things that we've done is really kind of also kind of taken our efforts down to the K through 12 level, right? Because that's where it really starts. Like right now, a lot of us are focused on how do we train current professionals or current organizations to get them secure. But the more we can build more cyber aware talent from the beginning, even just cyber hygiene is so important. And I always say it's never too early to start kindergarten. Start them in kindergarten. They receive, think about how many kids have access to a laptop, a cell phone, a tablet, some kind of digital device. What kind of cyber awareness do they receive, right? Or cyber hygiene about what to click on, what to do, what not to do. So we've launched several initiatives, including our Cyber Ambassadors program, where we identify kind of the best of the best students we have at the University of West Florida and send them to schools, particularly those serving underrepresented populations, underserved minorities, and really just make sure that we have diverse students going to talk about cool things that they can relate to. How many of you are on TikTok? Hopefully nobody. How many are you on Snapchat? And just try to relate to them and start talking about cyber in a way that they can relate to. We also offer free camps every year, including one we did last summer with the Girl Scouts who are now awarding cyber badges, the Girl Scouts, so that then we can get kids early thinking about cybersecurity and diversity. I'm also honored to serve as president for the Florida Women in Cybersecurity affiliate, because we also need to provide mentoring and support to early career people in cyber and those who want to advance in cyber. We need to, a few years ago, we only had about 11% women in the field, and now we're at 20%, 22%. We're the CISA director, Jen Esterly, said, we want to get to 50%, 25%, lofty goals, right? So I think we've got to also work on those in the field. How can we help them advance, right? More leadership so that there is representation across the board.
Thank you. That's a great shout out to WESIS. I was privileged to be a few weeks ago at the Hampton University Cybersecurity Symposium, and someone had the really amazing idea that we should be talking to the guidance counselors in the schools, which I thought was like an amazing idea. Don, this is a passion for you and really a core mission of Thrive DX. Can you talk to us a little bit about your strategies?
Yeah, like you said, it's our mission, and it's something very, very important for us. What we do really creates generational impact. And diversity not only helps communities and the under-resourced environment, but actually to have a diverse workforce. Statistics have shown the company's output is 35% bigger and larger. So we really have to see how much effect it has, how much positive effect it has on our society. Across the US, over 50% of our students come from diverse backgrounds, and they earn less than $30,000 a year. And then we train them and we put them in jobs where the upward mobility is probably one of the biggest areas in cybersecurity. In Israel, across our students, 40% are women. So almost 50%, but 40% today are all women. We are implementing different types of cohorts with different organizations. We're launching a cohort for single mothers. We're working with the deaf community to have a cohort just for people who are deaf. So across the board, across different companies, we're opening up different type of cohorts to attract people from diverse backgrounds and to really get this industry, with more diverse background students and professionals.
We could talk about this forever. These are just really innovative ideas, which is the reason why you're here and I get to interview you. I think we are kind of running out of time, so I just wanted to wrap up with a call to action. This is an amazing group of people from across industry, the cybersecurity industry, but also the sectors and students. And we have people from Texas and the government. So I know it's hard to address all those people, but what are a couple calls to action for this group?
Sure. Well, I would say that, we want all of you, regardless of like what you're saying, your role or where you're from, to be part or support Cyber Skills to Work, the National Cyber Workforce Development Program. So I encourage all of you to visit the site. It's cyberskills2work.org. And I'm happy to talk with you all later. And, if you're an employer, please join the Employers Network. All it takes is, signing up. And we'll connect with you because we want to learn more, as you mentioned earlier, about what kind of people you need to hire. What can we do better to train them and give them the credentials and the competencies needed for those jobs? We want to help you fill your jobs. If you're thinking about launching or advancing a cyber career, I see some students in the room. Sign up and see if you're eligible for free training. Some of the training is 2-week training. Some of it is 6-month training. Some of it involves getting your industry certs like CompTIA Security Plus or Network Plus or Linux Plus, all free of charge across 10 different institutions if you're eligible. And if you're a CAE college or university, please think about how you can offer additional pathways to address this growing need for cybersecurity. We can't just think inside the box about degree programs. That's not going to work for everyone, as Catherine and Dan pointed out. And then last, but certainly not least, we need support. So if you're able to provide funding support to help the program continue to sustain, our goal is to really make this kind of a platform where all partners could come in or provide scholarships to underrepresented groups. Like my colleagues were mentioning, we certainly welcome that support as well.
So first of all, I want to thank everybody for what you do today. Thank you, Catherine, and thanks everybody for what you do today to answer the challenge of the biggest threat, the cybersecurity threat that's looming over us. But I still want to implore everybody to collaborate, and collaborate more, because only in that way we will make, like Val said, a dent in the cyber talent gap. And I'd love for you all to join ours or others' programs. We just launched a scholarship program where we gave 150 scholarships for people of under-resourced communities. A third of them must be women, to come in and get quality training. We launched a platform that's an interest-free platform. So come collaborate, come help us fund quality education, because that's the only way that we will bring more people into the cyber world and try to make a dent in the cyber talent. So collaborate. And thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to be back next year, and Don and Iman are going to update you on how we're doing and we'll give you some numbers into how many more people we've brought into the community. So thank you very much. We'll see you next year.
Thank you all. Thank you.